So somebody, excuse me, somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
What the fuck is going on here?
Today is Friday, April 25th. The Dow Jones over the past week is up about, right now, 2,000 points. It started off at 30, The low was 39,718, and today it is 40,113. The high was 40,137. If you take a look at most of these companies, they are still hard hit. They still haven't completely returned. If you take a look at them over the 2-year period, they're still down. I have diamond hands, however, so I'm not selling anything. But Microsoft, Nvidia has gone from its high of $153 to what was it? 111 is where it is right now. It had gone a little bit lower, but it has risen up a little bit. Trump is basically backing down from his own trade war. And I will be talking about this a couple of times, so I'm not going to harp on it too much now. But the bottom line is, this whole trade war was against China. Now, he did include a couple of other countries that he said were putting tariffs on our goods. And, he imposed these reciprocal tariffs and whatnot. And he claims that most of these companies and most of these countries, they came to him to kiss his ass, and please, President Trump, take these tariffs away and everything. Well, the bottom line is the Dow is still down 5,000 points from when Trump basically swore in. So the market is still down. Billions and trillions in certain cases have been wiped away from the market. And until we get back to Dow 45,000, we're not going to see that again. Now, I personally believe that the market is going to price in the chaos of Trump. But the problem is, every single time he proposes something new and stupid, the problem is there's a quick, rapid sell-off, which causes these dips. These major dips are coming because he's proposing stupid legislation. And at this point, he doesn't, I guess he's learning because he's backing down. But the reality is, you're not fighting China. China is in the catbird seat. China's not worried about America. China right now, it's funny. Trump was telling Zelensky, you don't have the cards. Well, I've got news for President Trump. The cards are made in China. China not only has the cards, but they make the cards, and then they ship them over here. So Trump is finding that out, and he's finding it out the hard way. Trump is finding out that China makes the cards. That's the problem. So pretty much everything, most of these stocks, a lot of them are in the green, but even though they're in the green, they're still down. I've recommended buying banks, buying credit cards, buying oil companies, especially in their lows, while it's still down. Because even though it's down, it's not down to where it was in 2020. But the Dow has gone up considerably. The Dow went to 45,000 since 2020. The problem is right now it's down. It's still down 5,000 points. So eventually, we will get to Dow 50,000. It may happen after Trump leaves office. It could happen while Trump's in office. When we get to Dow 50,000, you will see a big smile on my face, because that means that all of my dividend-paying stocks that I've been buying, all of them are up, or at least the majority of them are up, since I've bought mostly stocks from the Magnificent Seven. But the reality is the market is still down. No matter how much these rallies, give you a positive feeling, the market is still down. But in this environment, it's very hard to want to invest, because now when you put your money in, you're afraid that Trump is going to say something and the market's going to collapse. So my recommendation, continue to go after dividend-paying stocks that you can afford, dollar cost average your way in. Don't even look at the losses. Don't look at it. When the Dow does eventually rally to 50,000, you're not even going to be thinking about the losses that you'd be suffering temporarily. You can't look at it. You can't look at it in the short term. You got to look at it in the long term. There's a psychology and a discipline to doing this. You have to recognize someday the Dow's going to be 50,000. Someday the Dow's going to be 60,000. Someday the Dow's going to be 70,000. We have no idea how long that's going to take, but it's going to get there. You want your money to be there with it. That's what you want. You want to get dividends for the money that they're holding, that you've invested. You want to get your dividends, and you want to buy dividend stock. Gold is definitely up. A lot of these governments and companies are pouring their money into gold because they're trying to hold the value. I would say if you do want gold, that only 20% of your portfolio should be gold. Now, some people would probably say, okay, I only want 10%. Some people will say 15%. Some people will say 30%. Some people might say 50%. It all depends, because what you don't want is you don't want to shortchange yourself. You don't want to put more money into the market than you've got for yourself. You want to save money, but you want to do it incrementally. Dollar cost averaging is a good idea. I just think it's a bad idea when you do it with cryptocurrency. Dollar cost averaging into dividend paying stocks is a good idea. Dollar cost averaging into gold might even be a good idea, because it'll hold the value for the most part of the money that you're putting in. And if we have no idea what's going to happen with this trade war, but if this trade war and this nonsense with these countries devaluing the American dollar, if this continues, gold's going to go up even more. Gold will hit 4,000. Peter Schiff, it appears, was right about gold. He was definitely wrong about the price of Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies, but he was definitely right about gold. The problem is nobody really wants gold because they're not trying to hold the value of their money. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make money fast, and that's what cryptocurrency is for. The reason why he was wrong is because he forgot about his own bigger fool theory. There's always a bigger fool to buy a worthless asset. Cryptocurrency has proved that. So yeah, that's what the market has done this week. I could have made this video 2 or 3 days ago, but I was like, nah, let me wait till Friday. Let me make it on Friday. I'll wait until the market closes for the weekend.
What's this shit about tariffs? Why the fuck is the Nintendo Switch 200 plus more?
I have no control of that. I'm just a puppet, I swear to God. They just tell me what to do and I do it. I can't say no.
Mario Kart World is already 80 cash. I'm not spending no more bread.
Okay. I will personally order a brand new Switch for you.
Make that 4 Nintendo Switches. Me and gang need to troll on Mario Kart. That new Smash might drop too. If you can't make this happen, I will snap your shoulder like I did my Joy-Cons raging.
No worries, they will be at your door first thing tomorrow. What's the...
Or a couple of stories that summed up this week pretty well. So it says Trump executive order raises alarm over women's financial independence. An executive order, EO, signed by President Donald Trump has raised concerns over the protection of women's financial independence, as well as other potential civil rights violations. The EO title, Restoring Equality of Opportunity and Meritocracy, is intended to encourage meritocracy and a colorblind society, not race or sex-based favoritism. It calls for an evaluation of all pending proceedings under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA, which was first passed in 1974 and amended in 1976 to prevent leaders from discriminating against women based on marital status. Although the EO cannot change the law, that can only be done by an act of Congress. If independent federal agencies abide by the order, they will stall the litigation protecting women from being discriminated against for credit, and they will roll back guidance and regulations which were in place to protect people's rights. Okay, so why it matters. Prior to the ECOA, women could be asked to have a male relative or spouse co-sign for their credit cards or loans. President Trump cannot single-handedly remove the ECOA, but his EO can make it harder for women to get federal help advocating against gender discrimination and can allow federally funded projects to discriminate based on gender. So if it's federally funded, he has power, but if it's not, then he probably doesn't. The EO's main target is the principle of disparate impact liability. The idea that racism, sexism, or some other form of discrimination can occur without explicit intent. The president believes that disparate impact liability is a key tool in a pernicious movement that endangers the U.S. foundational principle of creating opportunity, encouraging achievement, and sustaining the American dream. Ben Olinsky, Senior Vice President of Structural Reform and Governance at the Center for American Progress, CAP, like we say no cap, stop capping, but this shit literally spells out cap, anyway, explained to Newsweek that disparate impact liability is a recognition that you could have certain hiring practices that, while not clearly discriminatory in intent, may have a disproportionate impact on a particular protected class. First of all, protected class, like, I don't even think there should be any protected classes. Nobody should get any special protections at all. Like, if the whole point of America is supposed to be that everyone has equal opportunity and everyone has equal treatment under the law. Now, whether or not you believe that includes people who may be here illegally or people who are here on visas and not necessarily citizens, that's something that you got to take up with the Supreme Court, because even I'm not sure about that. But the bottom line is, people are supposed to have equal treatment under the law, which also means they're supposed to have what's called due process. So that means if you're charged with a crime, you're supposed to be able to be adjudicated, or you're supposed to have access to a speedy trial, and you're also supposed to be able to face your accusers, and you're also supposed to not be tortured or anything, have cruel and unusual treatment. That's what the country is supposed to stand for. It says they're trying to argue that it's somehow violating civil rights law and the Constitution to require employers or housing providers to consider the disparate impact on race or gender or right or age, right or disability. Olinsky told Newsweek, because that somehow might in individual cases cause a young white man to lose out because the criteria has shifted. Well, I'll say it like that. Well, okay, let me finish reading. The ECOA is also intended to protect people of all races, color, age, and ability, creating concern that many groups could become subject to banking discrimination if federal agencies abide by this EO. Evaluation of the ECOA falls under Section 6 of the EO, which Olinsky explained to Newsweek means to the extent that there have been any kinds of constant judgments or injunctions or orders that have already been put into place, the government should revisit some of those agreements to see if maybe they can be rolled back. He explained that the order would likely result in dismissal or quashing of any outgoing cases. The ECOA falls under the jurisdiction of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The CFPB is supposed to be an independent agency, but the Trump administration has been working to couple independent agencies with the White House. This move has resulted... Oh, God damn it. Where was I? Hold on. 1 second. This move has resulted in several court cases. However, Trump has appointed his own head of the CFPB, which he's allowed to do, and this head will likely follow through the executive orders. Not only does President Trump's order for restoring equality result in a reevaluation of judgments based around sex discrimination, it also calls for an evaluation of ongoing cases related to Titles 7, 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and says the Attorney General shall initiate appropriate action to repeal or amend the implementing regulations for Title 6 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title 6 prohibits federal funds from going to programs that discriminate against people based on their race, color, or national origin. Title 7 prohibits employment discrimination. Title 8 is also known as the Fair Housing Act, which is intended to prevent housing discrimination. You know what's interesting? They don't mention Title 9. Title 9 is there to prevent federal funds from going to anyone who discriminates against people based on sex. And I think it was expanded to be like sex, gender, or allowing sexual harassment. So basically it was saying, yeah, if you're transsexual or gay, under Title IX's rules, the federal funds would not be allowed to go to any place that discriminates against gays, transsexuals, and so forth and so on. Olinsky stressed to Newsweek that this EO does not mean people cannot file private lawsuits. There are still protections in place for women and other minorities, for example, lawsuits against private companies. However, without the federal government, there will be less data collection to aid people in understanding whether they were simply an individual denied a loan or if they were part of a discriminatory pattern. And there will be less support for agencies that are supposed to enforce, educate on, and regulate federal civil rights laws. So basically, long story short, just like it basically says here, it's basically saying that what he's doing is trying to even the playing field for young white males. And when I say even the playing field, it's really not white males. It's really not white males up against minorities of non-white descent. It's really white males up against women, white women specifically. And we've basically maintained for a long time, affirmative action has had the most help for white women. I'm a black male. I'm 40-something years old. I've got excellent credit. Excellent. I mean, fucking 850. My credit is so fucking high. I can walk into any place I want. I can walk into a bank. I can walk into Mercedes-Benz. I can walk into fucking Bentley, Rolls-Royce. I can walk into any place. And, you know, they test you out by finding out what your credit is before they get serious. So if I want to do a credit check, like when I walk, I just want to buy a house, all I do is I show them people, oh yeah, here's my social security number, run that credit. When they come back, them people on their knees. And they're like, how the fuck did you do that? How the fuck do you have an 850 credit score? I've never seen credit that high. And I'm like, well, boys, it's because you're not following the rules. But the long story short is what affirmative action has basically done is it's allowed white women to get ahead of white males. In one of the next stories I'm going to talk about, you know, that becomes even, it's obvious where Trump's head is. And it becomes even more and more obvious where his head is. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. But the long story and short of it, the Supreme Court is going to keep handing Trump losses. See, it's funny. Trump talks about the wins that he has with the courts, but he don't talk about the losses. He's got some losses. Even with the courts having ordered him to bring back Kilmore and him not doing it, ultimately setting him up for the possibility of an impeachable offense. Because that right now is the language that it feels like they're starting to use, because I think they drew up articles of impeachment based on this alone. This is a high crime. This is a misdemeanor. This is not just talking on the phone and doing quid pro quo. This is not that. These are misdemeanors. These are high crimes that he's committing. And he's doing so much at a time. It appears that his logic is, yeah, if I keep the courts clogged up, they won't be able to do anything about it. But no, the judges are literally going after very specific things at this point, and they are making rulings, like this whole thing behind this Kilmore Abrigo Garcia. Nayib Bukele may say, oh, well, I don't know what to do. You know, I can buy Bitcoin, but I don't know about how to get this guy back to America, because, I mean, what am I supposed to do? He might be a terrorist. I'm not... So they're talking all that bullshit, but it doesn't matter what he's saying. The courts have ruled. They said, Trump, bring that motherfucker back. So if he doesn't do it and he ignores these courts, I feel like we're exactly where we were back in 2019. I feel like, you know, I was arguing. I was like, yo, this dude, you know, he got into office. He won fair and square, but right now he's fucking up. And I think what's going to happen is I think when the Democrats retake the Senate and possibly the, what is it called, the House, because right now the Democrat Party, you've got younger Democrats telling these old-ass Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and all them, Bernie, it's like, yo, listen, it's time for y'all to step aside. Y'all aren't doing nothing. It's like you guys are worthless and you're a waste of fucking time. So now you got people like David Hogg challenging them. You got people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez challenging them. The Democratic Party is going to, as I expected, it's going to rebrand itself over the next couple of years. The Independent Party is attracting more and more people because they're disgusted with the Republicans and they're disgusted with the Democrats. So the reality is the Democrat Party is going to end up capturing a lot of those people. But before it can, it has to rebrand itself. And that is going to happen because these young kids mostly vote Democrat. And they are obviously the future of voting. That's how it always works. The young kids come up and they vote out all of these dying old people, these old, sickly, dying people. They vote them aside, push them aside. I think there was a video clip of, I think it was Paul Ryan pushing some old man over the cliff or something. And, they would say, yeah, these kids are going to push your ass over the cliff. That's exactly what's going to happen. So the Democrat Party is going to rebrand itself. It's going to end up capturing a lot of independents. It's going to end up capturing a large amount of the youth. And all of this stuff, mark my words, all of this stuff that Trump is putting forward, I guarantee you, first of all, he's going to be out of office in 2028. He's going to be out of office. There's not going to be no fucking third term. It's not going to happen. He likes floating stuff like that because he likes to get these people's panties in a bunch. It's just like every single president I remember, I've always remembered them saying, oh, well, he's going to try to impose martial law so that he could stay in office. They said the same shit about Bush. They said the same shit about Clinton. It never happened. Even with Trump in January 6th, we saw how that ended. Just in case you forgot, when they went to the Capitol and they stormed the Capitol and went up in the Capitol, well, Ashley Babbitt got a bullet in the chest. The face, the shoulder, whatever it was. Ashley Babbitt got herself a bullet. That's how it ended. And what's strange is there were soldiers in the staircase right behind Ashley Babbitt. And they had like AR-15s and rifles. It wasn't until that one cop, Lieutenant Michael Byrd, put that bullet through her that all of a sudden the talking stopped. And they were, oh shit, shots fired. And then that ended the whole thing. And everybody was like, okay, guys, well, that was enough. Now they're using live ammo. It's time to go home. That's exactly how any of these attempts to take over will end. The Secret Service has bought up a lot of ammunition. The, Social Security was buying up pistol rounds. The government's got no shortage of miniguns. So my thing is, yeah, you can march for liberty, but the question is, are you willing to take a bullet on the LIE for your rights? Most people will probably say no. Most people would probably try to stay home, stay in their couch, and watch it on television, like me. Like when you get killed out there, I'm going to be sitting at home in front of my 100-inch television, and I'm going to be watching you, dying on the street. And, I got a nice couch, I got the fan, I got brand new air conditioners. So no matter how hot it gets this summer for you, I'll be at home watching that shit on television. And in 4K. So that's what that is. So that was one story right here. So basically they're just saying, oh yeah, well, he's trying to break down all of this institutionalized discrimination against the white man, letting the white women get ahead, letting minorities get ahead. That's what it's basically coming down to. But in some of these other stories that came up this week, you'll see that you can see exactly where his head is. Most of this stuff's going to get struck down by the court. And even if it doesn't, when the next president comes in, a couple of executive orders are going to erase everything this dude did. That's the problem with doing stuff with executive orders. The next president can erase all that shit. It's just that simple. Yeah, you can rule over us for 4 years, but the next president's just going to erase everything you did. You'll see. So hold on. Next story. When I said Trump faces new impeachment problems, National Security Journal. And I'll make this very quick. I don't have to read too much of this because if you pay any attention to the news, you pretty much see what's going on. A local political party does not, under the Constitution, have the power to impeach the President of the United States. But that doesn't mean they're not going to try. The Libertarian Party of Travis County, Texas, has passed a resolution calling for the impeachment and removal from office of Donald Trump. Trump has a new impeachment issue to contend with. As posted on the party's Facebook page, resolution lists several whereas examples, most of them related to the president's deportations, including the administration's failure to retrieve Kilmar Abrigo Garcia from a prison in El Salvador despite court rulings. Whereas President J. Trump took an oath of office to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution with no obvious intention of doing so, the Post concludes. Therefore, be it resolved that the Libertarian Party of Travis County calls for the impeachment of President Trump and his removal from office. The resolution was written by Ted Brown, a sometime past Senate candidate. The fundamental human rights violations that have come up in the immigration era have been too much to handle. The Libertarian Party is a pro-immigration party, and I am very pro-immigrant. Libertarians and Trump. The Libertarian Party and movement are somewhat esoteric and plagued in recent years by a great deal of infighting. Trump in May of 2024 addressed the Libertarian Party's national convention. Although he was greeted with a divided reception, some showed up to the speech wearing MAGA gear. Others booed Trump for such reasons as his COVID-19 policies, running up towering federal deficits and lying about his political record. Per an Associated Press story, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., during the brief period that he was running for president as an independent, also addressed that convention. Some offshoots of the party, including it appears that Texas won, see Trump as the antithesis of what libertarians believe. What's next for impeachment? Democrats won't give in. The libertarian resolution in Texas country does not appear to grant any real momentum to efforts to impeach Trump, who was, of course, impeached twice during his first presidency, first in 2019 and then in 2021. He was not convicted or removed from office either time, nor did either impeachment prevent Trump from returning to office this year, although he would have been disqualified from future office had he been convicted either time. Bigger impeachment problems for Trump could be looming. While the Republicans being in control in Congress would seem to prevent an impeachment inquiry from being launched, some Democrat members of the House have been pushing the idea. Representative Al Green, the lawmaker who was kicked out of Trump's joint address to Congress in March, vowed at a rally in early April to bring articles of impeachment against Trump within the next 30 days. Green had introduced impeachment resolutions different from the ones that ultimately went forward during Trump's first term. He had also talked about doing so early on in Trump's second term after he proposed a U.S. takeover of Gaza. Last week, another Democrat, Representative Sri Thanadar, also called for Trump's impeachment. In this case, for the same reason as the Texas Libertarians, the failure to return Abrego Garcia. This must be a red line, otherwise we risk Donald Trump continuing to defy the Constitution in his own interest rather than the interest of the nation, Representative Thanadar said in the April announcement. Fear of impeachment for MAGA. The impeachment specter has also been raised from the other side. Steve Bannon in early April said on his show that Democrats should they gain back control of Congress, would impeach Trump a third time. These radical Democrats, it was over $100 million spent. They didn't put this kind of money in not to take those two seats, and those two seats put us right on the cliff, the edge of them trying to impeach President Trump, and it raises the stakes in 2026 even higher, and I told you this was going to happen, Bannon said when trying to push Republican turnout in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. Let's think back for a second. Let's think back to George W. Bush's second term. Remember what happened during the second term? So George W. Bush won in 2000. He was president until 2004. He won re-election against John Kerry. He was president from 2004 onwards to, 2009 when Obama swore in January, but he was elected president in 2008. George W. Bush, if you remember, because of the Iraq War and because of his messaging failures, George W. Bush lost control basically to Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats you basically see right now. I mean, there were others, but he lost control in 2006. The housing market exploded between 2006 and 2008. So think back to that. Let's just use that as a precedent. So George W. Bush, they never brought him up on impeachment charges or anything because it seemed Like, it wouldn't be a good thing to do, especially, if you're, trying to protect the nation, you claim that terrorism is a big deal and blah, blah, blah. But you got to remember, there was an outcry from the Democrat constituents. There was an outcry to impeach him because they claimed that him and Dick Cheney were putting soldiers' lives at risk and getting rich doing it. But it never happened. It never actually happened. They never impeached him. Now, Trump's already been impeached twice. I am saying right now that when those midterm elections come over, Trump is going to lose the House and he's most likely going to lose the Senate. Now, if you lose the House, that's already a big problem because the House is where they draw up articles of impeachment. The Senate is ultimately the ones that'll vote on them. But we have no idea what the situation of this country is going to be like, especially when you're talking about prices and tariffs and all this stuff. We have no idea how bad things are going to be by 2006. I mean, that's still over a year away. 2006. No, 2027, I believe. No, 2026. So we're in 2025. So the midterm elections are what? 2025, 2026, 27. Should be 2026, right? So we have absolutely no idea how bad things are going to be or how good things are going to be. But most likely they're going to be bad because they ain't going that great economically right now. So I'm saying it right now. The Democrats are most likely going to end up retaking the House. If they also retake the Senate, Trump is fucked permanently. Like, he's done. He is done. If they manage to get the House and the Senate, he is done. They are going to impeach him and they're going to remove him. The constituents are going to be screaming for his head on a platter. You already see the protest. And I will say this, the news has not been covering the protests that much. Depends what news you watch. Most of the news has not been covering these anti-Trump protests that have been happening on the weekends. But the bottom line is, I believe the Democrats are going to retake the House and they're going to retake the Senate. And when they do, Trump's done. He's done because they're going to impeach him for these violations of the court orders, for one. And for two, maybe even dereliction of duty, because this Hegseth situation keeps seeming to get worse. You got this guy using his personal phone and shit to send messages, and you got that Signal issue. The stuff that he's doing right now should have gotten Hillary Clinton impeached, but it didn't. And this time they're not letting nothing slide with Trump. And the constituents on the Democrat side are screaming for it. So I absolutely believe in that midterm election that same red wave that hit the House before and allowed Trump basically to stick around. Oh no, that is going to happen on the blue side. You're going to have these women. You're going to have these minorities. You're going to have these foreigners here with visas. All of them are coming. They're coming. They're coming. They right now, they do not have the power. But when they get the power, he's done. He's done. Now, do I think they're going to put him in jail? No. I don't think any president in the United States of America is ever going to jail. But as far as impeaching and removing him from office, they could pull that off. If they take over the House and the Senate, they could pull that off without the Republican vote. Just think about that. So that's my prediction. And my predictions tend to be right. So that for right now, that's my prediction. Yet another story. This one came from CNN. Trump was warned of empty shelves and financial turmoil from tariffs and firing Powell. His U-turn pushed stocks higher. Okay, President Trump, unprecedented tariffs, particularly on China, and recent attacks on Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell caused alarm among some of his top advisors and America's biggest CEOs, who warned of financial chaos and store shelves that could go bare. This is exact same shit that they were saying when, Hank Paulson and I believe it was Ben Bernanke. This is the same shit they were saying that, the shelves are going to be bare. Alan Greenspan, same thing. Oh, the shelf. Oh, no. If we have a credit crisis, the shelves are going to be bare. But anyway, President Donald Trump's unprecedented tariffs. So the warnings and the market's own volatility this week seem to have broken through. Trump backed down Tuesday from his threats to try to remove Powell from the job, telling reporters in the Oval Office, I have no intention of firing him. Now, he was talking all this shit. Oh, yeah, I'm going to fire him, and I wish I could fire him and all that. Yo, let me tell you something. You see this guy, Jerome Powell? You see this guy? Take a good long look at this guy. That's the real president of the United States of America, whether you want to believe it or not. The mere fact that you've got somebody who's in a position where the president himself can't fire this guy, and the Congress itself can't force this person to raise or lower interest rates. They can't force Jerome Powell to raise or lower interest rates. If Jerome Powell... Because first of all, you got to understand what interest rates do. When you lower interest rates, you're making it so that cheap money gets cheaper. First of all, you're devaluing the dollar, but you're allowing money to get cheaper, and ultimately that's allowing people to spend more and more money. Right now, we are suffering the effects of what we did during COVID, lowering the interest rates, printing more money. People right now... It's funny because the same thing that's happening in the car market is happening in the auto market. A lot of people ran out and bought new cars. Most of them who probably needed new cars during 2020, 2021, they were buying up inventory that these dealerships were trying to get rid of. They were trying to get these cars off these lots. Some of these people had tremendous markups, market adjustments because of inflation. Then we had that chip shortage. The chip shortage pretty much said, oh, yeah, well, you're going to have to pay more, but you're going to get fewer features. And a lot of people paid top dollar for these vehicles. And right now, Operation Repo. I don't know if you saw it. There was a Spanish show. It was called Operación Repo. I used to like that show, watching them go. Like, it was a Spanish group, and they would go around repoing cars legally. Right now, we're in Operation Repo. That's what we're in. We're in Operation Repo. And these people went out and bought these cars they couldn't afford. Some of them bought these cars under the belief that they would still have a job. They had no idea Trump was going to lay them off, or that their business was going to lay them off, or that they were going to lose their federal job. They had no idea. A lot of these people went out and bought cars, and they're losing them right now. So the reality is Operation Repo is happening right now. The Federal Reserve kept these interest rates too low for too long. Even people like me, I'm in a fixed 3%. I got the lowest mortgages I could get refinanced. I have 2 properties, 3%, and I reduced the loan terms and dropped like 10 years off of the loan terms because I reduced the terms, reduced the interest rate, and went down. Now, the problem is that people just like me who are on these fixed 3%, we can't go anywhere. We're stuck in these houses. We're stuck in these houses simply because to sell these houses would mean that now we'd have to go someplace and find someplace else at a higher interest rate. I ain't doing that. I'm the type of person, I got diamond hands. I will ride this out. I do not believe that there's a housing crisis coming anytime soon. But the housing crisis that exists is basically, to sum it up in a word, it's kind of like you could use the word immobilarity. Right now, you're immobilized. You cannot move because if I got a property with a 3%, if I moved into anything new, I would end up in a 8 or 9% mortgage or even a 7% mortgage, and I'd be starting from the very beginning. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. What makes sense is what I've been saying. What I'll do is I'll keep these places paid off. I will rent these places. I will take all of my shit and I will put it in like a storage part of one of the houses. And all of my shit will be stuffed up in one little storage area. It'll be locked up. And I will be in Philippines or Thailand. I will have Airbnb rent my places out, whatever it is. And they will send me my money. I'll be over there in Thailand or Bangkok. I'll be in Philippines living like a king. I'll have some young wife rubbing me down with coconut oil, buko juice, whatever. And the bottom line is, I ain't got to worry about nothing because I already got my properties. But for the people who don't have their properties, and this is part of what's going to drive these young people to the polls, housing and affordability and rent and affordability. Now, a lot of these young kids, let's be perfectly honest, they have been so miseducated. They have been so dumbed down, sitting on their cell phones, watching fucking TikTok, zombified. They aren't ever going to be able to buy a house. Even if they got married, they ain't going to be able to buy a house. There's some people who get together as groups, they buy a house, like 4 or 5 people, but that never turns out well because for the most part, these houses, if you did that, you'd be stuck in this place with these other people. And sooner or later, somebody's going to say, nah, this is not enough for me. I got to leave. I want my share and I want out. It doesn't work well. So the reality is, yeah, there's a housing crisis right now, but it's not what you recognize. It's not houses sitting with signs on them for sale, foreclosure signs. That's not the housing crisis you're going to see. Now, I will say this. I've been driving around. I've been looking at other properties. I was looking at a house the other day. I was looking at it. I saved it on Zillow. Place is $1.2 million and it has a for sale sign on it. It's in a place I wouldn't want to be because it's like on a main road. So a lot of these houses the people can't sell them at a loss. So now you're in a situation where these people can't leave because they have a low mortgage, a low interest rate. They can't sell at a loss. And then on top of that, there's nowhere for them to go because now they'd have to buy a more expensive mortgage. So yeah, there is a housing crisis, but it's a mobilarity. We're immobilized. We can't go nowhere. What we saw in 2008 was totally different. You saw foreclosure signs. You saw people with houses, beautiful houses and pools, and everything was run down because they just abandoned it. That's not what you're going to see this time. Not this time. This time, let me tell you something. I came in from work. I was tired. I got right in my bed. Friday. I got right in my bed. I get a ring on the fucking doorbell. And it's one of these, like, understand something. When you have a house, there's a never-ending string of people coming to your door trying to sell you something. You got these goddamn solar panel people. You've got these, people who want to. There's always just something that they're trying to sell you. When I come home on my fence, on my house, in my mailbox, I got these signs, these letters. Oh, are you selling your property? Oh, if you're interested in selling, oh yeah, well, you should call me back. It's like, fuck, I'm not interested in selling shit. I ain't selling shit. I got diamond hands. But when you have a house, there's a never-ending string of these motherfuckers coming to your doorstep trying to sell you something. I'm sleeping, I'm hearing my doorbell ringing, and I ignore that shit. I get when I get those letters and I get these things, oh, you sell, oh, we're interested in buying. I take that stuff, I put it together and I burn it. And I burn it just for the heat. Take it outside. I got like a little grill pit that I just use to burn shit. And I just burn that shit because it's so annoying. But that's what they're doing because there's nothing. There's no properties to buy. The only properties to buy are overpriced. So there's just nothing. That's the housing crisis we're looking at. This right here, Jerome Powell, he's the real president. He's the real president. I don't care what anybody says. This is the real president. He can't be fired. He's unaccountable. He can do basically whatever he wants. And he's controlling the value of our money. Now, I always heard in the Constitution, I heard Congress had the power to purse. So could somebody please explain to me how the fuck is there somebody who gets to decide how much the purse is worth? Where'd that come from? Okay, please don't tell me the history. I know it was in a result of the Great Depression. I understand that, but please don't tell me that. But the bottom line is that should have never happened. And now you're in a situation where you got this guy deciding how much interest you're going to pay on your credit card when you buy something. And that's not good. That's not good. And I've been driving around. I'm seeing a lot of boots on cars. I'm seeing cars basically being abandoned. I'm seeing boots on abandoned cars. I'm seeing tickets piling up on cars. Derelict cars, they call them. The same exact thing that's happening in the housing market back in 2008 is happening to the car market right now. The difference is a car is just an asset on wheels. It's easy to just hook that shit to a tow truck and drive it away. Can't do that with a house, not so easily. But, that's where we are. So Trump was talking all that bullshit about Jerome Powell, and sure enough, there ain't nothing he could do about him. It says the warnings in the markets on volatility this week seem to have broken through. That prompted sighs of relief on Wall Street a day after markets boomed on comments from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that Trump would seek to de-escalate the trade war with China. You know what that means? I ain't got to say much more. You know what that means? That means that he took a knee. It means that Trump failed at his own trade war. What did I say from the very beginning? I had people on my channel, China's falling apart. I was like, no, they're not. I don't know where you're getting your information. Maybe Fox News is telling you that. China, you got to understand the number. The numbers alone are in their favor. China's got 1.4 billion people. India got 1.4 billion people. China trades with India. China trades with almost 630 million people in Southeast Asia. China's got 1 billion people in Africa. China's got over 300 or 400 million people in South America. They are pushing them BYD electric cars. They are going into these countries. They're helping build infrastructure, building plumbing. They're building wires and shit. They're setting up power stations. Let me tell you something. China don't give a fuck about, like, you got to understand. I have to use that language just to drill it into your head. China don't give a fuck about 350 million people in America. China has been planning to dump the dollar since 2008 because they always knew. These are not stupid people. They always knew that it was possible to weaponize the dollar against them. Europe fell into America's trap. Europe, they allowed America to do trade with them, and they allowed America to sell them weapons and everything. But Europe always believed that America would never weaponize the dollar against Europe. They never believed it. China knew that it was possible to do it. And China was like, you know what? We're gonna cut ties. We're gonna slowly start cutting ties, and this way, when we decide to shut America's lights out, it's like we could do it, and we don't have to worry about nothing. These are not stupid people. Bruce Lee called it the art of fighting without fighting, and that's the art of war. Sun Tzu. When your enemy is in the process of destroying himself, don't help. Don't help your enemy at all. But that's just where we are. There was one other story I got to get to, of course. So the right-wing conservatives have been basically complaining. What they call it replacement theory. Now, I've said this before. I say it's replacement fact. But anyway, Trump administration looking at $5,000 baby bonus to incentivize public. I think you should have said incentivize the public to have more children. So basically, let's just understand something. The right-wing white conservatives have basically been saying that they're being replaced by illegals and foreigners and aliens. And, they haven't complained about blacks because blacks make very good use, black women anyway, make very good use of abortion. But recently, and if you look at the statistics, and I read this before when we had the last census, Asian and Hispanic Americans' numbers have increased much higher than white Americans. They're having more children, and that's just it. They're having more children. So anyway, Trump is trying to basically, what this comes down to is Trump is basically trying to incentivize women to have more children by offering $5,000 payments. Now, let me tell you something. First of all, if you've paid any attention to all the shit that I say, you know that I hate the welfare state. This is the welfare state. The welfare state exists. You know how some people say hoes is winning? The welfare state exists to give a safety net to women who choose to have children at whatever age, to make sure that they can continue having children in order to keep our numbers up. That's what welfare does. Now, it devalues the family structure. It devalues male involvement in the family structure. I hate the welfare state. If I was president, I'd cut all of this fucking money off. This guy is offering $5,000. Just think about that. So all you libertarians who know that this is bullshit, feel free to respond, reply, whatever we want. The MAGA crowd, the Trump cultists, they ain't going to say nothing about it. But in fact, you don't even hear them really talking about this. The only time I heard it talked about was on The View. And it was like Joy Behar and Whoopi or something. They were talking about this. That's how I found out about it. But anyway, white women have not been having as many children as Asian women and Hispanic women. They're trying to get these white women cranking out babies. Here's the problem, though. White men have been declining, and you've heard them complaining all over YouTube. They've been declining from relationships. They're not taking these women out on dates. Once these women pass a certain age, they're not even talking to them. They're not looking at them. These are white women, by the way. I feel invisible. Nobody talking. It's Valentine's Day and I'm here alone. It's my birthday and I'm here alone. I'm fabulous at 40 and I'm alone and the guy's not taking me out. And the passport bros, they're getting their passports and they're going to get poor women who are undereducated and they're not paying any attention to me and I'm invisible. So the bottom line is, and these white males, these guys are sitting home playing video games and they're out there playing baseball and all that. And the thing about it is they're paying these women no mind. And these women who've chosen careers and OnlyFans, they're deciding that they're doing their own thing and they're painting up their hair with these ugly-ass neon colors and they're putting rings through their nose and they're messing up their ears and stuff with these disgusting earrings. And they're basically doing whatever they feel like doing. Oh, I hate the patriarchy. I do what I want. Okay, so now birth rates are down. These women, and this is part of the reason I guess that Trump is also devaluing college, because by taking money out of the colleges, he's really hurting women because it's not the males mostly going to these colleges, it's women. The women are going to these colleges. The women are taking out ridiculous amounts of debt, which is the reason why they want to repeal their credit, just like in the story that I read already. And the simple fact of the matter is they're trying to incentivize them, but they can't. If you have certain jobs, there's no maternity leave. There might not be paternity leave. You got some of these, like, what is it? Trump got rid of the freaking Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education. A lot of those were these women work. Who do you think was working in those places? Women. And most of these women will tell you, it's like, oh, I'm not going to have children. I can't afford it. Or I'll wait until I'm ready. And the thing about it is, the bottom line is, I don't care what you say. The bottom line is, these women are supposed to be cranking out children between like 18 and 25, and they're not. They're on birth control. They're on this, what is it? They're using condoms, obviously. They got the sex ed down. They're not making babies. They're not. That's one of the reasons why we needed illegal aliens. And I shouldn't say illegal aliens, but I should say the reason why we needed migrant workers is because we needed those people to come here and do the jobs that our own people turn their nose up to. And we're not having enough children. Even, it's funny, Elon Musk said that. He's like, we don't have a problem with overpopulation. We have a problem with underpopulation, because he's talking about the age gaps are increasing. You can say what you want about Elon Musk, but yeah, he makes you think about it in a different way, and especially he's got the data. So if you're going to show people the data, which nobody wants to look at, the simple fact is, yeah, he's probably right. A large portion of this population on this planet is going to end up dying off, and you'll be left with nothing but dumbass kids who can't do anything. They'll have AI, and there'll be just enough industry in other countries to help keep your country going. But for the most part, you're going to be left with a bunch of dumbass kids who are not ready to take over where their grandparents and their fathers left off. And that's the sad thing. We don't have enough kids. Sounds like a good idea to me. President Donald Trump said Tuesday when asked about $5,000 incentives for new mothers. Now, $5,000, I want to remind you that if you look at the bills for delivering a baby in a hospital right now, that shit's like $10,000. In vitro fertilization, that's like $10,000. This dude's saying $5,000? And then the question is, who are you giving this money to? Because I'm guaranteeing that this is an incentive for white mothers to have children. It's not going to be Asian mothers and it's not going to be Hispanic mothers. I guarantee that because their numbers are already up. I might even show that story too because that was a while back with the census. But anyway, when asked by ABC News about the proposals the administration has been fielding, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the president is proudly implementing policies to uplift American families. That's not uplifting American families. American families don't need an incentive to have children. American families right now can't afford. You see the house that I'm sitting in? Of course you can't see it because you know there's no video. They can't buy a fucking house. A woman and a guy get together and they can't even buy a house like this unless their parents give it to them. And in most cases, their parents ain't got that to give. They got debt. That's the American family for you. They're broke. They're bankrupt. Their credit sucks. President wants America to be a country where all children can safely grow up and achieve the American dream. As a mother myself, I am proud to work for a president who is taking significant action to leave a better country for the next generation. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Sources caution that while advisors are considering the ideas, Trump hasn't made a final decision on any of the proposals. Yeah, he's talking out of his ass. I don't even see that really happening, but even a tax credit, Vance said the child tax credit should be expanded, stating that he would love to see it at $5,000. You have to understand, the reason why we have a tax credit in the first place is to incentivize having children. Here's the problem, though. The costs of raising children have outstripped the small benefit you get year over year from these tax credits. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's $2,000 per month times, what is that, 12 months is $24,000 a year. And then times 18 is $432,000. So basically what they've been saying is if you want to raise a kid to 18, it's going to cost you like $400,000. Now in this case, $432,000. $2,000 a month times 12 months times 18 years. Now, most people would, if they had children, they would just pay it and they wouldn't think nothing about it. But now when you show them that number, they're thinking about that, like, wait a minute, I ain't got $432,000, not understanding that, listen, you're not paying it all at the same time. But if you're talking about $2,000 a month is what it costs to raise a kid, that's like a mortgage. $432,000, that's a mortgage over 18 years. That's a mortgage. So, it is what it is. So, I don't know what to say to these people. It says, and at March for Life in late January, Vance told the crowd he wanted more babies in the United States of America and called on the government to do its part to ensure families can afford to care for their children. Listen, families can't... now, and by the way, this right here, and this is where I'm probably going to stop. This right here, this is Vice President J.D. Vance. And I'm going to say it because nobody else is willing to say it. J.D. Vance is basically a passport Joe. He didn't get a white wife. He got an Indian wife. And that's great. I'm glad he did. Every man deserves to be happy. And I encourage men to get their passports. But the white women, do you think that the average white woman would allow him to crank 3 babies out of her? A lot of these Catholic women, they were getting it. I mean, they were doing underhanded things to their husband. They were getting their tubes tied without him knowing about it. Oh, I can't keep my husband off me. Let me go to the doctor and do this. And then the husband is trying to pump some children out of her. And he's like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. It's like you're not producing nothing. And he had no idea that her tubes are tied. And J.D. Vance is a perfect example. This guy is a passport Joe. That's what he is. He's a passport Joe. The average white woman is not having 3 kids. And they've always said, in order for you to keep your population growth up, every single couple needs to have like 2.3 or 2.5 kids, which basically means 3 kids. They need to have 2 kids and a younger kid. J.D. Vance is living a dream. This is your vice president. I want y'all to take a good look. This is your vice president and his wife and his family. Well, who is this? His wife, Usha, daughter, Maribel, sons, Ewan and Vivek. That's your vice president right there. So Trump doesn't seem to understand. In fact, Trump is a freaking passport Joe too. He went to Slovenia. He got Melania. And they had Barron. So you got a president and a vice president who are both passport Joes. Now, here's a question. Obviously, Trump's marriage to an American woman didn't go too well. But J.D. Vance obviously didn't even take that chance. The proof's in the pudding, folks. These people, he's talking about trying to get these white women to have more children, but they ain't down for it. They're not doing it. They're not doing it until they're ready. But the problem is they're waiting so long and they're delaying childbirth so long that by the time they get to the age where they can have children, chances are they're going to have geriatric pregnancies or they're going to have issues. It's just like when I criticize black women. Oh, the black women are suffering from racism in the hospital and they're dying in pregnancy. I have 2 questions. Number 1, how old are these women? And number 2, how much do they weigh? But no, y'all don't want to talk about that. See, the problem with me is I'm going to analyze the data and I'm going to be like, wait a minute, there's a problem here. So what's the problem? Oh, you're old. You see what I'm saying? That's the reason why, Shannon Sharp, I don't blame Shannon Sharp for going after, like when I just went shopping and when they put the fresh milk and the fresh eggs out on the shelf, that's what I'm grabbing. I'm not grabbing the manager markdown spec. I'm not doing it. I know the manager will mark down the old eggs. He'll mark down the old milk. And he'll be like, oh, well, yeah, the milk goes bad on April 26th. Today's April 25th. So if you want to save $3, you could buy this gallon of milk for $1. No, no, thank you. No, I ain't buying the markdowns. I want the fresh. You understand what I'm saying? Leonardo DiCaprio understands what I'm saying. J.D. Vance understands what I'm saying. So, yeah, I think this is a stupid idea. Another stupid idea. I think this is expansion of the welfare state, and you can't argue with me because, yes, it is. It's expansion of the welfare state. And I don't like the welfare state at all. I want to decapitate it, me personally. But I have to just keep on dreaming because you have people like Trump who continue to perpetuate the welfare state. So, I just have to keep on dreaming. But that's the story right there. So you could, say what you feel about that. That's the story.
But you wanna be bad, just be there, be there. No one want to be defeated. Showing how funky strong is your fighter. It doesn't matter who's wrong or right. Just be like, just be like, just be like, just be like.
To be continued.